Hi, it's Brad. Today I'm going to do a little what does that button do and what some of the or what the tabs do in JWildfire. So to begin with, we're going to be under the Flame Editor tab here. This first button here is the random batch, which will generate random fractals. You can choose the type of random you want to show up on the side here from this list. As you see, there's a nice extensive list here. You can adjust the symmetry of the random generated fractals. You can also adjust the gradient types of the fractals that are random generated. Next button is New from Scratch, which will start basically a clean slate when you want to create something brand new. For example, I'm going to start with let's see, what was it? A DC cube. And I'm going to add a linear to it. But we'll get into that in a little bit. So we start from scratch. From here, this button here, from clipboard, will copy or import params you have copied from another source. Let me see if I can find one real quick. Here's something I did. So when selecting, you start from right here. You need the little greater than symbol before flame. And you select everything to where it says flame. And you just right click, copy. Then in JWildfire, you just hit from clipboard, and it will populate that exact flame from those params. So I don't need that. But let's say you want to also share your params. This button here, to clipboard, if you hit it, I'm going to go to just plain old notepad. And if you do paste, I did a right click and paste. Those are the params for what I just did. Here, this next button, under here, it's the load flame button. And if you have a flame already saved on your computer, this is how you can find it or open it. Just an example here real quick. Here's the flame I created earlier. Then if I want to save it, just the flame file, click save, name it whatever you want, click save, and that is it. Now, if you don't want to, you can also do a quick save, which will also save the parameters, but it will save them straight to your flame folder or your default flame folder. Just and they will be called quick save, date, and time, like here. So if I wanted to just click quick save, it saves it automatically. This next button is how you can render your fractal. Here you can choose the size that you want it to be rendered in, and also the quality. I believe with very high quality, it also saves a HDR image as well. Then these two buttons here, you can add different resolutions. Let's say I wanted to make something that was 800 by 8 by tab 800. I would then you click apply, hit OK. Then in your list here, you have your new dimension that you want. And you can also do the same with quality. You can choose your quality. You can also change how long it renders if you want it with HDR or HDR intensity map. I'm not going to do that right now. And here is a batch render. Let's say I wanted to send both of these flames to the batch renderer. I would click that button here, click that button again. Now if I click on this batch flame renderer tab, they are both here, and then I can render it both at the same time, or in not the same time, but one after the other. Okay, back to my first flame here. And of course, alongside here, this is where all of your thumbnail images will be. Whenever you do a random batch, they will all populate here. You can select them by double clicking on them. You can also delete them if you want. Now the first button, I'm going to be working across, then down. This button here will randomize your parameters, and it will also add or subtract variations that it just does by random. You don't have any control. I'm going to actually make a copy of this real quick to show you. Run through a few things. So you get the idea there. And delete that. Now this next button will show you exactly how a variation is working. Here, you can see this yellow box. If you do something like with spherical, in reality, this is how it is interacting on a whole image. It's actually pushing in uh, and out in a spherical way. This is a very good way of figuring out how a variation works. I'm just going to go through a few here. Here's scary, rose, log, well, that's log, apo, log. Now and Julian. And then you can also turn that off by clicking the button again. This next button will make this black background or whatever color black background you have transparent. So here it is just showing the flame. If you wanted to see what it would look like, if you want to export it trans as a transparency onto another graphics program, that's how it would look. So I'm going to turn that back on. Now this is probably my most used button here. It's the fine tune. When you click on it, every movement you make, well, here, let me show you real quick. If I come here, I'm just going to move mouse down to about there and went down to 1.76. I go back up, it's at 7. It actually decreases, I believe, by 10. I could be wrong there. The amount of movement it is. So if I come down here, now you see it's only going down to 6.3. And I moved it the same amount. It is also good for fine-tuning where you want your rectangles to be. Even also in scrolling up and down here, in helping with the size of the triangle. Now this here, when you want to render it, this just gives a countdown, a count up, I guess. And basically it's a quick render. Now this next button, this is a godsend. This is a real-time progressive preview. If I turn this off, you may not be able to see in the video, but the clarity of the preview display here isn't as good as if you have it on, because it automatically starts to do a short render. So it gives you much better quality. See, at first it starts out a little blurry, then gets clearer. Excuse me for a moment. Had to wet my whistle. Next button here is the grid button. It will help you figure out if I wanted to move. Tell you what, I'm going to reset that transform. If I wanted to move by hand over to here, I can tell that it's lined up by the grid. This helps with making exact movements. Also, the size of the grid can be changed under your preferences here. If I can find it real quick. Aha, here it is. Tina Editor Grid Size. So you can increase this or decrease it, which will help. The lower the number, the smaller squares, the better it would help with you figuring out stuff. So I'm going to turn the grid off. Now this next one will turn on the golden ratio slash what is it? Golden ratio and rule of thirds grids. I believe the red here is the rule of thirds, and the green is the golden ratio. If you have questions about what those are, just Google it, rule of thirds and golden ratio. Basically, it helps to make a more aesthetically pleasing image. Here, you can choose how you want the triangle to be. I'm just used to the triangle, but you can also have it as an axis, a crosshair, rectangle, or you can hide it. Like I say, I'm used to the triangle. This next button here will make the triangles all one color. And I believe it changes under post. No, it doesn't. I like the colors. It helps me to differentiate which transform I'm working on. And this next button here that I just clicked is a toggle for post transform. If you notice, when I click this button, it also highlights this button here for the post transform. And then you can also toggle it off. Okay, so now I'm going to work my way down here. This button here will send your current image to the mutagen tab. So if I click it, and as you notice, I didn't click any buttons to get it going here. It just automatically starts, and then you can play with it as you want. Next button. This will send your current flame to the Dancing Flames tab. This is the Dancing Flames tab. I'm not going to get into this right now. The next button will send it to the Easy Movie Maker. This is the Easy Movie Maker. The tab's right here. Again, I'm not going to get into this right now. And now, this button here will undo your last moves, or you can redo them. This next button is also one I use a lot. Let's say you're working on something and you want to try something else, but you don't want to lose the image you have here. If you just hit screenshot, it will send your current image to the top. So let's say if I was looking on this one, I hit screenshot, see it send it to the top of the thumbnail view here. This button here, title, this is how you can title your flame. Now, when you send parameters, let's go back to our notepad. If you notice here, this first part here shows the title. You can put in there whatever you want. If you want to put the name, your name, just to help show ownership that you made it. This next button here will add a random bokeh and depth of field effect to your image. If you click it a few times, randomizes bokeh. It's all the cool little dots and dashes and ways to show depth to your fractal. Luckily, I already made a screenshot. I'm going to make another screenshot in case I need it. Now this next one will enable the motion curves for any param in the flame editor. So if I click it, just a quick example here. Let's say I want to make an animation, and I'm going to rotate the Julian. I click it, add a quick point, add a quick point. Okay. I need to move myself out of the way here. And if you click play, you see it's going through the quick animation here. That's all I'm going to say about that for right now. Now onto the buttons over here. This is called the editing mode, view editing mode. With this, if I right click, I can move my fractal around. I can zoom in using the mouse wheel, going up, going down. This is the triangle editing mode. Here, if you just want to rotate the triangles, going left and right, that's all it does, is it just rotates them. Here, that button shrinks them or makes them larger, the triangles. This is the I'm sorry, what was it? Free triangle editing. Here you can choose, let's say I just want to change the y-axis. I just change the X and the O. And then this button here can actually make the triangles bigger or smaller. Sometimes when you have a lot of triangles, you may need to shrink them down so they can all show up on the viewer here. Let's say if I move this one up. Let's say if I move this one way over here. I can't see it. I don't know where it is. If I click that button, I'm scrolling up. Now I can see the triangle again. Now I can bring everything back. This button here is used for depth of field. We'll go over that here in a little bit. This button here, this is the Chaotica bridge. If you have Chaotica installed on your computer, if you hit that button, it'll automatically send that flame to Chaotica, and then you can render it and tweak it however you want in Chaotica. This is also a button I use a lot. It's a little quick render window. So any change I make, oops, will automatically show up over here. And as you notice, it's actually rendering it here. So if you just let that go to about 300, which doesn't take that long, you can get a good idea how your final image will look. And then this button here will just render it. do a quick render. Okay, now down to these tabs here at the bottom. I'm not going to go through all the settings, but just give you a brief what they do briefly. Next, first we have the camera. This change, you can adjust all the camera settings here. You know, pitch, zoom, pixels per inch, which also acts as the zoom, camera settings. Again, you can play with those and see what they do. Next, bokeh. When you have a flame bokeh, like we do here, from when we hit the bokeh button, this is, you can control the depth of field of the image. This tab here, you can choose the type of bokeh that you want, and then change its settings there. Coloring, some of your basic coloring controls. You can change the background color if you want. You can select an image to use as a background. You can remove that image if you don't want it there. Now here, if this button is clicked, when you render, your background will not be present. It will be just like the transparency button. So that's one thing you need to be careful of. Sometimes if that button's clicked and you render something, it'll just show as a white background. And some people can't understand why they have white backgrounds on all their images. That is why. You can also change the opacity of the background. Here are anti-aliasing options and filters. If you don't know what anti-aliasing is, look it up on Google. And for better quality results, I really highly suggest getting to know this tab. Next is a special shading, and by default it's always on flat, but you can also choose pseudo 3D. You can make make the changes to the settings here. Blur shading options are here, and distance color, and those options can be found here. Again, I'm not going to go much into that right now. Next we have the gradient button. First we have the edit gradient, which will enable you to edit the gradient that you currently have. You can randomize the gradient. And that chooses a random gradient from either the built-in flames or your gradients. Choose random color, change the speed, or distribute the colors. Now we have the gradient library, which shows all of the gradients that you have. You can create a new gradient. Just hit random gradient, and you can select the type you want. You can also extract from a flame, which if you already have a flame and you want to get that color from that flame, that's the button you will use. Also, you can create from an image. Let me find if I want to use that image. It breaks it up into the different colors of the image. Then here you can modify them. Change the colors here, brightness, gamma, and you can also make a color map. And as you see, it's actually, let me see if I can make that a little bit brighter. That image is actually portraying onto the fractal itself now. Stereo 3D rendering. There's some modes here. This is one thing that I don't mess around with much at all, if ever. So if it interests you, give it a try. Next is the post symmetry tab. You can pick different axes and different types of symmetry, and of course then change them. This here is for adding motion to your image. Best way to do that, I'm going to start this again here. Let's say I wanted to just make something here real quick. And move myself up here. I forgot to mention, sometimes when you're doing that animating, here it is without blur shading, or motion blur. Now if we change it, now you see it is adding motion to the movement of your fractal. Next, layers. Here is the way you can actually combine one fractal on top of another, on top of another. You can adjust the weights of them. You can also use layer append. Let's say I wanted to add this fractal here. If I click on it, Now I have both fractals together. Then you can also do some other options here. Channel mixer. If you want to control the colors of your image, this is the place you do it. I have already done actually a couple tutorials on this. Next button. My mouse is acting funky. Is Leap Motion. I do not have a Leap Motion controller yet, but I hope to soon. So I have not had a chance to mess with this. If you do have a Leap Motion controller, this is where you would change your settings. Okay. Next, up here, this is our transformations. You can add a link transform, edit the name of it, duplicate it, delete it, and add a final. This tab here, this is where all your scripts are. And you can run through the functions here. Then this is the Affine tab. I've done a couple tutorials about this too, so I'm not going to go into the detail of it, but this is basically how you can make manual adjustments to your triangle. This is where all of the variations, this is where you choose all your variations from. This tab here is where you can adjust your chaos. Here is the tab to control the color, some color settings for the current transform. You see, if I move around, I have different settings already. And this is a very, next tab is the gamma, and it also makes color changes to the current transform. I can also, if you click the whole fractal and randomize, this is something I do very often. If you click whole fractal and randomize, it randomizes everything, which can be very helpful. Oh, just real quick before I forget, these buttons down here are macro buttons for scripts. And as far as the flame editor buttons, I believe that is it. So for right now, till next time, this is Brad. See you later.